Listen before you judge anyone in this story. Hear it to the end. If this moves you, tap subscribe, drop a comment, and share this with someone who needs a reminder to choose curiosity over fear. Now, let me tell you what happened on Sycamore Lane the day a phone call almost broke a neighborhood. I'm the kind of narrator who doesn't sugarcoat things. It was a blue sky Saturday, the kind that makes a cul-de-sac smell like cut grass and second chances. Ava and Amara, 12 mirror image braids, identical gap-toothed smiles, were going door to door with hand-drawn flyers. Neighborhood readathon. The flyers said, raising money to replace vandalized books at the public library. Their mom, Dr. Nia Cole, had kissed their foreheads, checked the time, and told them to stay together. The girls were good kids, honor roll, track team, the kind who wave at dogs and say sir and ma'am, without try to be cute. They made it to the White House with the blue shutters, Mrs. Whitaker's place. She'd moved in late spring, a widow with a perfect lawn and eyes that measured distances. The twins opened the gate, stepped onto the walkway, and never made it to the porch. The door peeled open like a tongue of light. Yes. Mrs. Whitaker's voice came thin and tight, the kind you hear in hospitals and courtrooms. Hi. Ava said first, always first. We're doing a readathon for the library, ma'am. Would you like to donate a... Stop. Don't come any closer. Her fingers pinch her phone like a fragile bird. Where do you live? Number 12. Amara said, pointing toward the end of the lane. Right by the maple tree. Mrs. Whitaker's gaze hesitated, then slid past them to the empty street, as if danger came with a shadow. And your parents? Our mom's at home, Ava said. We have permission. Is that a camera? Amara asked, noticing the ring lit up like a watchful eye. Mrs. Whitaker didn't answer. Leave the flyer, she said. You shouldn't be soliciting. We're not selling anything. Amara tried. It's for the library. Leave it, Mrs. Whitaker repeated and shut the door. Not slammed. Shut, carefully, like setting down a loaded tray. The twins traded a look. They'd been taught to read the room, the street, and the world. They set the flyer on the mat and turned away. 3 houses later, they heard the sirens. On Sycamore Lane, sirens don't echo, they cut. 2 cruisers, light bars washing the hydrangeas red and blue, rolled up so softly the birds kept singing. Officers Ramirez and Collins stepped out, hands open, eyes scanning but not hard. The girls froze on instinct, hands visible, voices quiet, remembering every talk their mom had ever given. Hey there, Ramirez said, voice like a Sunday. You Ava and Amara? Yes, sir, Ava said. Can we chat a second? Collins asked. We got a call. A call about what? Amara's throat clicked. 2 juveniles possibly casing houses. Collins read from the radio clipped to his vest. Ava looked at her sister. We're raising money for books, she said, and she hated how defensive it sounded. From behind the blue shutters, the door cracked again. Mrs. Whitaker appeared, brittle and pale, clutching her cardigan at the throat. That's them, she said. They were at my door. I told them to leave. Ramirez glanced at the girl's tote bag and pulled out a flyer. He read the wobbly marker letters, the glitter glue. The corner of his mouth twitched, not amusement, recognition. You 2 made these? Yes, sir, Amara said. Okay, Collins breathed. The wind edged out his shoulders. Let's just slow everything down. Across the cul-de-sac, a Prius turned in hard and fast, tires chirping. Dr. Nia Cole stepped out in scrubs and sneakers, still smelling faintly of antiseptic and coffee. She took in the scene in 2 swallows. 2 officers, her girls, a neighbor hugging herself like a cold. Mama, Ava said, and the word landed like a prayer. Nia's voice was calm the way rivers are deep. Officers, I'm their mother. What's the situation? Ramirez explained gently. The call, the concern, the misunderstanding that was trying to become something else. I see, Nia said, looking at Mrs. Whitaker with an expression you'd use on a skittish horse, neutral, steady, a hand palm up. Ma'am, did my daughters frighten you? Mrs. Whitaker's jaw worked. I didn't know who they were, she said. People come to doors. They look around. People do, Nia agreed, and sometimes they read flyers. Sometimes they sell cookies. She nodded toward the Ring camera. May we review your footage? It's the quickest way to remove doubt. Collins shifted. If the homeowner consents. Mrs. Whitaker drew an air like a dare, then stepped aside. Fine. They gathered in the foyer. Neat hall table, lemon cleaner. A painting of a lighthouse punched out of winter light. Mrs. Whitaker brought up the clip. The twins approached, smiled, held out a flyer. No darting eyes. No peering through windows. Just two girls trying to stitch a little good back into the world. Silence stretched until it found a place to sit. Then Ramirez said softly, "Ma'am?" Mrs. Whitaker kept watching the same 5 seconds over and over, as if repetition might produce guilt. I lost my husband in February," she whispered finally, eyes fixed to the screen. "After the funeral. There were strangers at the door. Contractors. Salespeople. People who looked at me like I was an address on a clipboard. I'm alone and the world keeps knocking. I'm sorry for your loss," Nia said, and you could hear she meant it. Grief makes even doorbells sound like alarms. Mrs. Whitaker's eyes flicked to Nia's scrubs. "You're a nurse?" "ER physician," Nia replied. "Last night's shift." She reached into her bag and pulled out her hospital badge and then, slower, a small white card. "This is my number. If ever you feel unsafe, call me first. I live 5 houses down. I will come." Mrs. Whitaker swallowed. A dry, difficult sound. "You don't even know me." "I know fear," Nia said. "And I know my daughters. I'm asking for neighborliness, not friendship." The officers exhaled like a room put back into place. Ramirez, who had a daughter the same age, squatted to the twins' eye level. "You did everything right," he said. "Everything." "Thank you, sir," Ava murmured. Collins held up the flyer. "Readathon, huh? What's your goal?" $300, Amara said. "But we added T-shirts, so maybe 4. Ramirez grinned. "I'll Venmo you 50 if you promise to put my name on a sticky note inside a mystery novel." He glanced at Mrs. Whitaker. "Ma'am, would you like to contribute?" Her mouth opened, then closed. She looked at the twins' hands, ink-stained, nail-polished chip silver. Children hands. She faltered, and for a heartbeat, pride fought with shame. "I'll write a check." Outside, the sky felt bluer, the hydrangeas less alarmed. The officers left with polite nods, the cruisers easing away. Mrs. Whitaker stood on her porch, fingers on the checkbook, and the twins waited on the walk, not on the stoop, because boundaries matter when your skin writes a story before your mouth can. When the check was signed, she handed it to Ava. "For the library," she said, and her eyes were wet in a way she didn't try to hide. "Thank you," Ava said, sincere as breath. "Thank you," echoed Amara. They turned to leave, and Nia lingered. "Mrs. Whitaker?" "Yes." Nia's voice softened into something like a memory. "Do you remember the winter your husband slipped on black ice outside the grocery store? The young resident who stitched his eyebrow, who sat with you while CT scanned him to rule out a bleed?" Mrs. Whitaker blinked. The lighthouse painting might as well have been a mirror for how still she went. "That was you." Nia nodded. "I held his hand while you called his brother." Mrs. Whitaker's lips trembled. She stared at Nia, then at the twins, then at the place where the world narrows to what we choose to be next. Nia could see the recognition flood across Mrs. Whitaker's face. The way it rearranged her posture, softened the hinge of her mouth. Grief has a way of blurring faces into archetypes. Helpers, threats, ghosts. Now, they were people again. "I'm so sorry," Mrs. Whitaker said, the apology landing clumsy and true. "I don't know what happens to me sometimes." The doorbell rings, and I'm back in February, listening to machines. "I know," Nia said, and the twins watched their mother speak a language made of mercy and boundaries. "But you also know my girls now. You know their laugh, their names." "Ava and Amara," Mrs. Whitaker said, testing them like a hymn. "Would you like lemonade? It's the least I can do." Ava looked at Nia, who gave a small nod. "Yes, please," Ava said. Amara chimed, "Thank you, ma'am." Inside, the house smelled like lemon and paper. Framed pictures, a man with crinkled eyes on a fishing dock, a couple at a winter lighthouse, a Christmas tree that leaned a little right. Mrs. Whitaker poured lemonade into tall glasses with lilac-painted rims. She set out a plate of butter cookies, as a hospitality could undo a police report. "So you're raising money for the library," she said, hands fidgeting with napkins. "My husband used to read me mystery novels out loud when I couldn't sleep. He'd do all the voices." Amara smiled. "Our mom does voices, too. Her grumpy detective sounds like our cat." Nia arched a brow. "Excuse me." The twins giggled, and Tension walked out the back door for a smoke. "It's been quiet since he died," Mrs. Whitaker admitted. "Sometimes I talk to the kettle, just to hear a voice answer." "You could come to our readathon," Ava blurted. "It's next Saturday at the park. We're doing a blanket circle. People take turns reading a chapter." "I couldn't," Mrs. Whitaker said. Reflex more than refusal. People will clap?" Nia cut in gently. "Because lending your voice is brave." Mrs. Whitaker looked at her lemonade, then at the twins, then at a photo of a man who would never walk through that door again. "What if I read," she said slowly, "from the book my husband loved most?" "What book?" Amara asked. Mrs. Whitaker's smile crept in like sunrise. "The Weston Game." He always did Turtle's voice like a sarcastic crow. "We love that one." Ava said, bouncing. Then it settled. Nia said, standing. "We should let you rest. Thank you for the lemonade." On the porch, the air tasted like freshly washed linen. The twins started down the steps. Nia hung back. "One more thing, Mrs. Whitaker," she said. "I'm not asking you to never be afraid. I'm asking you to let your fear be specific. 2 sixth graders with glitter glue aren't the same as strangers with clipboards." Mrs. Whitaker's eyes shone. "I understand. And if my fear tries to lie to me, I'll call you before I call anyone else." "Good," Nia said and walked her girls home. News travels along cul-de-sacs like wind through chimes. By evening, Mrs. Whitaker had told a neighbor 3 doors down that she'd overreacted. The neighbor had told his red-headed wife, who texted the book club, which included the principal, who called the librarians, who cried in the break room. Human chains don't break when the links are apology and grace. On Monday, a different knock at Mrs. Whitaker's door. Officer Ramirez stood there, in polo and jeans, holding a paper grocery bag. "My wife made arroz con leche," he said. "She says it helps when the nights are loud." He shifted his weight. "I felt strange all day Saturday. Not because of you. Because of the way my daughter looked at me when the lights went on. Like she was asking whether she'll always be treated like a suspect when she's just a kid." Mrs. Whitaker swallowed. "I'm sorry." "I know," Ramirez said, "and I appreciate you saying it. Will you come Saturday? To the reading?" "I will," she said and meant it. Saturday came with a sky, so clear it made promises. The park was a quilt of blankets, lawn chairs, coolers, strollers. The twins wore matching readathon tees they'd stenciled themselves. Nia set up a folding table with sign-up sheets and a battered mason jar labeled "Books Not Broken." The principal came. The barista who always wrote amazing twins. On their hot chocolate cups came. The librarian came with a cart of paperbacks, rescued from the maintenance closet. Then Mrs. Whitaker arrived, clutching a dog-eared copy of the Weston Game. Conversation stuttered, briefly, as if the air hiccuped. Nia walked to meet her, took her elbow lightly, guided her to a chair in the circle. Ava tapped the mic. "Thank you, everyone, for coming. We're reading until the jar is full or the sun drops, whichever happens last." Laughter rippled. "We'll start with Chapter 1. Mrs. Whitaker. It wasn't a trap. It was a bridge." Mrs. Whitaker sat, opened the book, and for a second, all the birds held their breath. When the first of the Sunset Towers apartments was shown, she read, voice small as a thumbnail. The prospective tenant noticed that the west windows faced nothing but the brick wall of the neighboring building. By the second paragraph, her voice found a plank. By the third, she tried a character voice, and the crowd smiled without moving their mouths because no one wanted to scare the moment away. When she finished a chapter, there was clapping, the kind that starts like rain and ends like weather. At intermission, a curmudgeonly man named Frank shuffled up with a check and muttered, "For the mystery jar." A teenager in a hoodie slipped a 20 into the mason jar like a secret. Officer Collins, off duty, read a poem by Langston Hughes and choked up on tomorrow, and no one made it weird. Halfway through, the twist came, not a shock, but a reveal. The principal stood and announced, "On behalf of the district and with community partners, we're matching whatever the twins raised today, dollar for dollar." The park erupted. Ava and Amara clutched each other like the inside of a dream. Nia put a hand over her heart and closed her eyes the way you do when a prayer lands. Later, when the jar was heavy and shadows were long, Mrs. Whitaker pulled Nia aside. "I need to tell you something," she said. "In February, the night you stitched my husband, I blamed everyone for everything. I blamed the ice, the city, God, the girl who bagged my groceries too fast. You sat with me while I listed the universe on trial, and you let me do it. That night you said, 'Blame is a room with no windows.' I didn't understand. Saturday, when I called, I locked myself in that room again." Nia nodded. "The key is always on the inside." "I want to be better," Mrs. Whitaker said. Will you help me learn what I don't know?" Nia smiled. "Start with names, then stories. Bias can't stand under the weight of either." When the sun finally made its slow bow, the twins counted the money at the table under a string of fairy lights. 300, 4, 5, $862.73, not including the district match, not including the gift card someone slipped under the jar. Victory smelled like grass and paper and lemon. It sounded like community, unpolished and whole. They packed up. Mrs. Whitaker hugged the twins each for a beat longer than politeness demands. "Thank you for letting me read," she said. It felt like hearing him again. "Come by next weekend," Amara said. "We're making bookmarks." "I'll bring the lemon cookies," Mrs. Whitaker said. On the walk home, Ava asked, "Mama, will she ever call again?" "Like that?" "Maybe," Nia said. "Honesty first. Always. Grief is tricky. Fear is stubborn. But today you helped her build a different reflex. You gave her a story to reach for when the doorbell rings. Do we get to keep the check?" Amara asked, practical. "For pictures?" Neil laughed. "We'll photocopy it for the scrapbook." They turned onto Sycamore Lane, and the lighthouse on Mrs. Whitaker's wall glowed through the window. It didn't look lonely anymore. It looked like a watch kept not against danger, but for boats finding their way home. Fear multiplies in silence. It shrinks in conversation. When we leave with names, stories, and second chances, a street of strangers becomes a neighborhood, with room enough for grief, growth, and glitter glue. If this story stirred something in you, ask yourself, when the next knock comes, on your door, your feeds, your life, will you reach for suspicion or curiosity? If you felt this, subscribe, share with a friend, and tell me in the comments a moment when a conversation changed your mind.